Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen of the press. Thank you for your support always. Today we are here to address two highly connected issues. One, we are here to condemn the federal government's acquisition of an AM radio broadcast license for the sole purpose of a strictly Fulfulde language broadcast to Fulani herdsmen. The radio channel to broadcast in Fulfulde to killer Fulani herdsmen is a continuing effort to further mobilize and weaponize the Fulani jihadists into a more effective killing machine in a manner reminiscent of the Hutus of Rwanda. The then president of Rwanda, himself a Hutu, inaugurated the Hutu radio station to unleash mayhem on the majority Tutsis. The backlash was the almost total genocide of Hutus in the early 1990s. So we warn the federal government of Nigeria to immediately desist from continuing this agenda of having an AM radio broadcast license and station to broadcast to Fulani herdsmen. Secondly, and most importantly, why we are here, is to warn President Muhammadu Buhari against promoting and escalating the war on Nigeria's entire 370 ethnic nationalities by his Fulani kinsmen. On the Fulani war against Nigeria, we advise our brothers and sisters of the entire 370 Nigeria's indigenous ethnic nationalities to completely disregard President Buhari's recent illegal, unlawful, and unconstitutional executive order on arms bearing. We say to all of us, we will only disarm, be slaughtered, and wiped out by the Fulani supremacist jihadists at our own peril. Paraphrasing Joel 3:10, this is the time to beat our plowshares into swords and our pruning hooks into spears. Let the weak say, I am strong. On May 6, 2019, we issued a press release titled The War on Nigeria and the Trojan Horse that Permitted It. We strongly recommended then, among others, the abrogation of the Firearm Act 146 of the laws of the Federal Republic of Nigeria 1990, and thus with the intention of liberalizing the licensure of individual weapons possessions for the purpose of self-defense. We are all witnesses to the immediate response of President Buhari's administration on May 21, 2019, to our candid advice. Rather than move swiftly to decisively neutralize the Fulani armed takeover of Nigeria, Buhari suddenly and surreptitiously signed into law with executive power to remove, revoke, and banish all firearms and shotguns certificates and licenses in Nigeria. The executive order, which is supposed to go into effect from 1st June 2019, while revoking all previously authorized gun licenses and permits, also prohibits anyone, for whatever reason, from owning or carrying what they call prohibited weapons, guns, or the components parts thereof. In addition, the law states, and I quote, "You must now hand back all types of firearm license or certificates issued to you in the past to the nearest police headquarters in your state." Not just police station, but the police headquarters in your state. Furthermore, the law prohibits all civil defense corps and other security organizations from carrying weapons from 1st June 2019. And now, let us remind President Muhammadu Buhari that while he, Buhari, undeservedly flew into Nigeria's leadership as its president on the beautiful wings of democracy, he is no longer able to hide his true draconian nature. He is now openly ruling the country on the back of an egregious and dreadful horse of dictatorship. While Fulani killer herdsmen and their Boko Haram terrorist collaborators feasted themselves with the unrestrained, brutal, and almost genocidal killing of indigenous natives in the lands of the Eglons, Agatus, Berom, Margis, Adara, Miangus, Mbulas, Bachamas, Siawas, and such townships as Madagali, Dogonahawa, Dede, Hayambula, Duhu, Lassa, Shua, Numa, Sabongeri, Gubala. Buhari made no effort to disarm or condemn these terrorists. In many instances, under the imminent threats of attack, rather than defend and protect the people, Nigerian military personnel are known to have speedily snuck in to warn, urge, and assist the would-be victims of terror to quickly vacate their homes and villages and escape with their lives. How about that for a Buhari government, charged with the sole responsibility of protecting human lives and properties? In fact, Nigerian military helicopters have been sighted on numerous occasions flying across the Nigerian airspace to deliver high-caliber AK-47 assault rifle arms and ammunition to remote areas and jungles of the country, supplying and replenishing Fulani herdsmen jihadists with weapons. To understand the pervasiveness of the Fulani jihadist war on Nigeria, please be aware that almost every commercial motorcycle Okada rider throughout the country is a lookout and secret informer for the Fulani jihadist network. Each of these Okada riders harbors at least one well-concealed AK-47 assault rifle and ammo underneath his motorcycle seat. Empowered with their good mobile phone connection, they can be quickly mobilized into action at a moment's instance. Is anybody talking about the recently exposed illegal arms deal between the Buhari administration and Slovakia? The same way they talked about and demonized the genuine cash for arms deal with South Africa under President Goodluck Jonathan? Let us ask ourselves, what were the results of the Buhari government's how-to-house search and the forcible confiscation of guns from the people of Benue State to warrant or justify Buhari's executive order, an order now aimed at officially expanding the gun confiscation policy across the entire nation? The result was Benue State was attacked 3 days later after the gun confiscation exercise. Fulani herdsmen came in and slaughtered hundreds, burnt down their houses and farm products, and all this happened without any form of resistance from the local inhabitants. Fulani pastoralists under Mieti Allah Cattle Breeder Association Bagban, Mieti Allah Kutel Kore, Mieti Allah Cattle Herders Association, as well as Fulani Nationality Movement Funam, all of them confirmed that the Benue attacks were carried out by their members. Now, let us consider historically the hideous and underlying motives and some results from gun conspiratorial seizure, especially from law-abiding citizens across the globe. Now, let us examine at least 7 historic instances. Reports have it that in 1929, the Soviet Union established gun control from 1929 to 1953. The results: about 20 million dissidents unable to defend themselves were rounded up and exterminated. Second example, in 1911, Turkey established gun control from 1915 to 1917. The result: 1.5 million Armenians unable to defend themselves were rounded up and exterminated. Third example, Germany. Germany established gun control in 1938, and from 1939 to 1945, the results: a total of 13 million Jews and others who were unable to defend themselves were rounded up and exterminated. Fourth example, China. China established gun control in 1935. From 1948 to 1952, 20 million political dissidents unable to defend themselves were rounded up and exterminated. Fifth example, Guatemala. Guatemala established gun control in 1964. From the results of 1964 to 1981, 100,000 Mayan Indians unable to defend themselves were rounded up and exterminated. Uganda. Uganda established gun control in 1970. Results: from 1971 to 1979, 300,000 Christians unable to defend themselves were rounded up and exterminated. And seventh, last but not the least, Cambodia established gun control in 1956. The results: from 1975 to 1977, 1 million educated people unable to defend themselves were rounded up and exterminated. Will Nigeria be another statistics? Without doubt, it is the law-abiding citizens, such as farmers, hunters, private security personnel, and forest guards, not criminals, that seek for and obtain gun licenses. So, the Buhari gun ban will only render law-abiding citizens powerless to engage in their vocational activities of farming and hunting, and also to defend themselves as vigilantes in cooperation with community policing efforts. Evidence suggests that the attacks and massacre of terrorist victims, especially by Fulani jihadist killer herdsmen, is neither arbitrary nor haphazard. Targets are properly surveyed and selected on the basis of their lack of security fortification. The most vulnerable, so-called soft targets, are often defenseless, and the Fulani herdsmen terrorists know it. Some of these vulnerable soft targets include churches and other places of worship. 2, open farmlands. 3, schools, from elementary to tertiary educational institutions. 4th, crowded areas such as markets, motor parks, and shopping malls. 5, homes in local villages, especially those in close proximity to farmlands. 6th, commuter highways, especially between major cities like Abuja and Kaduna. 7th, office buildings, especially those with high-profile employees. And 8th, funeral and other peaceful processions. All these constitute soft targets that Fulani herdsmen survey and strategically attack. So now let us conclude and make some recommendations. Now we must ask the question, why must the Buhari government further render these soft targets, these vulnerable targets, more defenseless and helpless? We agree with the former president of Nigeria, Dr. Olusegun Obasanjo, and conclude again that the only plausible reason is to expedite the complete Islamization of Nigeria by the Fulani Wahhabi jihadists. Now, due to the colossal failure of government to protect the lives and properties of Nigerians, we hereby recommend a self-remedy strategy for limiting attacks on the vulnerable soft targets. And these strategies include: 1, mapping out, constantly reviewing, and increasing the security intelligence gathering around soft targets for a few miles radius. 2, we recommend providing an internally organized, proactive, immediate and spontaneous armed response to preemptive terrorist attacks. 3, we recommend deploying technology-based surveillance of all, including seemingly benign terrorist activities, with the goal of rounding up as well as seizing terrorists' cache of arms and ammo. We will challenge the federal government in the federal high courts. We will depose them on the illegality and unconstitutionality of Buhari's executive order, which unilaterally cancels legally acquired guns and firearms permits to crop farmers and game hunters. These people use their guns to fight off predators and wild animals, such as elephants, wild boars, leopards, francolins, wild guinea fowl, which seasonally destroy their crops in large commercial pre- and post-harvest quantities. We will also legally render the prohibition of the ownership and sales of guns and the parts thereof for the legitimate use of farmers, hunters, private security personnel, vigilantes, and other law-abiding citizens. We will render this prohibition ultra vires, null and void. We again reiterate the abrogation of the Firearms Act 146 of the laws of the Federal Republic of Nigeria 1990. And also, we reiterate the need for this to be abrogated for the purpose of liberalizing the licensure of individual weapons possession, for the purpose of crop protection, wildlife population control, the security of lives and properties, as well as for the general community and individual self-defense of soft and vulnerable targets. Thank you.